The Taking. Erebus 9 was a quiet world, a place where even the wind seemed to whisper apologies. The black dunes stretched to the horizon, unbroken except for a cluster of steel domes and a rusted comm tower that hadn't pinged a signal in years. That was how Yelena Morozov liked it. She'd earned her peace the hard way, through blood, smoke, and the screams of dying soldiers on 100 worlds. They used to call her Baba Yaga during the human wars, the name whispered by enemies who never saw her coming. But that was a long time ago. Now she was just Miss Morozov, the quiet woman who brewed distilled liquor and raised 3 boys in the middle of nowhere. Her sons were her world. Anton, the eldest, strong and steady, a builder like his father. Victor, the clever one, who could fix anything mechanical. And Sasha, the youngest, all heart, no fear, always running headlong into trouble with that grin that made her heart ache with pride. Yelena had promised herself she'd keep them out of the wars that had taken everything else from her. But peace, as she'd learned, never lasts when the Empire decides to remember you exist. The sky cracked open that morning. A cruiser descended through the thin atmosphere, its hull dark and angular, Imperial design. Its engines carved burning trails through the black dust. Yelena froze mid-motion, a bottle of mash in her hands. She didn't need to see the insignia to know. Only the Empire moved with that kind of arrogance. Anton was already outside, shouting orders to the others. "Mom, get inside. It's not a trade ship." Her hand went to the old scar beneath her collarbone, an old ache that throbbed when danger was near. "Inside, boys," she barked, but they didn't listen. They were men now, not children, and they still believed justice meant something. The transport settled with a hiss. From its belly, 10 Imperial marshals stepped out, armor gleaming under the twin suns. Their leader, a tall Corothian with silver eyes, read from a datapad. "By decree of the Galactic Empire, you are hereby accused of trafficking restricted human weaponry to rebel colonies. Step forward." Anton, Victor, Sasha Morozov. Yelena stepped between them. "You've got the wrong family," she said evenly. Her voice was calm, practiced, the same tone she'd used defusing combat droids long ago. "We don't deal in weapons. We farm and make spirits. Nothing more." The Corothian's voice was emotionless. "Evidence obtained through surveillance and informant testimony confirms your offspring's guilt." He didn't even look up. "Sentence is execution under Imperial Sanction 12. Yelena felt the air leave her lungs. "Execution," she repeated, as if the word itself were foreign. "They're boys." But the Corothian had already raised his hand. The rifles hummed. 3 bursts of plasma flared. Anton fell first. Victor second. Sasha tried to run. Always fearless. Always last to fall. When it was over, the marshals turned and left her kneeling in the sand, the smell of burned ozone still in the air. No apology. No explanation. Just procedure. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She waited until their ship vanished into the clouds. Then she stood, slow and deliberate, her boots leaving black prints in the ash. She dug 3 graves with her bare hands until her nails bled. Laid her sons side by side, covered them with earth. Only when the suns dipped below the dunes did she finally light a cigarette, her first in 20 years. The smoke burned her lungs, sharp and alive. She stared at the sky until the stars came out. Then she went to the cellar. The door was sealed behind a wall panel. It opened only when it recognized her voice. Authorization. Colonel Yelena Morozov, Terran Special Operations Command, retired. Lights flickered to life. Dust covered everything. Shells of tools, old rifles, metal crates marked with faded human symbols. But at the far end stood a heavy cryo-vault, sealed with a biometric lock. She pressed her palm against it. "Open it," she said. A smooth, genderless voice replied from the dark. "Welcome back, Colonel Morozov. It has been 20 years since last activation. Shall I prepare the badgers?" Yelena exhaled smoke through her nose. "Do it." Steam hissed as 2 vertical pods came to life. Inside, curled like sleeping monsters, were her creations, Misha and Grendel. Hybrid honey badgers, genetically engineered for shock assault. Compact, muscled, unrelenting. Their DNA woven from Earth's most fearless predator and human-engineered combat enhancements. Their eyes snapped open, reflecting the cold blue light. They sniffed the air, and then her. Recognition flickered. They growled low, not in threat, but greeting. Yelena knelt, placing a hand on each of their heads. "You remember me," she murmured. Two throaty rumbles answered her. She rose and walked to an old steel trunk. Inside lay a simple sidearm, matte black, heavy, perfectly balanced. The weapon she'd retired with. She holstered it at her hip, adjusted her coat, and took one last look at the pictures on the wall. 3 smiling boys on a sunlit dune. "They took my sons," she said quietly. The AI flickered to life, its tone almost curious. "What are your orders, Colonel?" Yelena took one last drag of her cigarette and crushed it under her boot. "Burn the house. Prepare the ship. We're going hunting." That night, the black dunes glowed orange as fire consumed her home. From orbit, a single small transport lifted off and vanished into the void. Inside, the woman once known as Baba Yaga sat between 2 growling beasts, eyes cold as the stars ahead. And for the first time in decades, the galaxy had something new to fear. The hunt begins. The ship she stole wasn't much, an old freighter named Vagrant's Mercy, its hull scarred by micrometeorites and laser burns. But it could fly, and that was enough. The stars stretched around Yelena Morozov like shards of frozen fire, their light glinting off her face as she sat in the cockpit, cigarette glowing faintly in the dark. The hum of the engines filled the silence. Behind her, the war beast slept. Misha curled like a great cat, Grendel sprawled out, his claws twitching as if dreaming of blood. Yelena's hands moved with slow precision across the console, rerouting old Terran frequencies and encrypted comm channels that hadn't been used in 2 decades. Connection established. Human blackline network active. The AI's voice was steady, almost gentle, a companion from her soldier days. It called itself Sable, though once it had been designated Tactical Operations Core 7. Yelena took a drag from her cigarette. "Find me Imperial records, specifically Erebus, 9 incident logs. 3 human casualties, 1 survivor." A pause. "Records classified under Imperial internal security. Encryption tier, Omega Black." She smiled faintly. "So, the bastards try to bury it." Her fingers flew across the screen. Lines of code scrolled. Sable assisted, cycling through cipher chains faster than any human could blink. Within minutes, the files decrypted. 3 names appeared. Anton Morozov, Viktor Morozov, Sasha Morozov. Status: executed under Sanction 12. Authorized by Commander Hesh. Ratified by Governor Klex of Zeniths Prime. Confirmed by Admiral Solothvire. Yelena exhaled smoke through clenched teeth. 3 names, she murmured. 3 graves. 3 deaths owed. Rim Bastion Station hung in orbit above a dying moon. A sprawling mass of neon lights, filth, and broken law. It was the kind of place where the Empire looked the other way, where smugglers, bounty hunters, and mercenaries traded death like currency. Yelena docked Vagrant's Mercy under a false code and stepped out into the pressurized dock. The air smelled of oil, sweat, and ozone. Misha and Grendel followed, their armored hides rippling under the light. The crowd parted instantly. Even here, among killers, something about the beasts, and the woman walking between them, demanded fear. Her long coat swept behind her, sidearm holstered, cigarette burning bright. The honey badgers padded silently beside her, jaws half open in what might have been anticipation. She approached the cantina, a den of holographic smoke and low laughter. When she entered, the room went quiet. Dozens of eyes tracked her. Humans, reptilians, insectoids, all hardened, all curious. She ignored them, walked straight to the bar. "Looking for a man named Ramos," she said. The bartender, a scarred alien with too many teeth, blinked. "Ramos? That's a name from old wars." "He's dead." Yelena dropped a coin, solid platinum, pre-Empire currency. "Tell him Yelena Morozov's buying." A murmur spread through the crowd. Somewhere in the back, a voice said, Baba Yaga. She didn't look up, but Misha growled low, the sound like thunder rolling through bones. Moments later, a man emerged from the shadows. Human, gray-bearded, one arm replaced by a crude cybernetic. His eyes widened. Yelena, I thought you died on Acheron Gate. I did, she said. Now I'm back. They sat in a private booth, the door sealed behind them. Ramos poured something that smelled like engine cleaner, but burned like truth. You know the Empire still hunts your kind, he said quietly. If they knew you were alive. They know, Yelena interrupted. They made sure of it when they killed my sons. Ramos' expression hardened. Then you're not here for a drink. She shook her head. I need names, routes, and locations. Governor Klex, Commander Hesh, Admiral Vire. They signed my boy's death warrants. He whistled softly. That's not revenge, Yelena. That's suicide. She met his gaze, eyes like winter steel. You think death frightens me? I raised 3 men in a world that fear my name. Now I'll burn the Empire for what it took. Ramos leaned back, studying her. Finally, he sighed. You haven't changed. He slid a data chip across the table. Klex is holding a summit on Zenith Prime. Security's tight, planetary level. But if anyone can cut through it, Yelena pocketed the chip. Appreciate it. Before leaving, Ramos stopped her. Yelena, the stories they told about you, they weren't exaggerated, were they? She smiled faintly, lips curling like smoke. No, Captain, they weren't. The moment she stepped back into the cantina, 3 bounty hunters were waiting. Imperial sigils glinted on their armor. One raised a rifle. Baba Yaga, he sneered. The Empire says there's 10,000 credits for your head. Dead preferred. Yelena didn't flinch. Then you should have brought more men. The next 10 seconds were chaos. Misha lunged first, slamming into the nearest hunter, claws rending through armor like paper. Grindel followed, jaws snapping bones and cables. Plasma fire filled the air, but honey badgers didn't care. They never cared. Yelena moved like the ghost of a gunslinger. Her pistol barked twice, 2 headshots, clean and merciless. The last bounty hunter tried to run. Grindel dragged him back, screaming. When it was over, silence fell again. The crowd watched in horrified awe as Yelena holstered her weapon, exhaled a plume of smoke, and tossed a few credits on the bar. For the mess, she said. Back aboard Vagrant's Mercy, the ship drifted from the neon glare of Rim Bastion into deep space. Yelena sat in the pilot's chair, studying the holographic projection of Zenith Prime, a massive, glittering world of marble towers and imperial palaces. Her next target. Sable's voice filled the cockpit. Course plotted. Estimated arrival, 56 hours. Good, she said. The honey badgers curled beside her feet, their eyes closing. She gazed out at the stars, her cigarette's ember the only light in the darkness. They think humans are broken, she whispered. That we forgot how to fight. She smiled, small, dangerous. Let's remind them. The ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the faint echo of a legend reborn. Baba Yaga was hunting again. The price of fear. Zenith Prime glittered like a jewel of civilization. All chrome towers, glass spires, and endless banners of the Galactic Empire. The city stretched from horizon to horizon, its upper levels bathed in sunlight, while the lower slums lay drowned in permanent shadow. It was beautiful in the way a knife could be beautiful. Perfect, sharp, and meant for control. Yelena Morozov's stolen ship descended into the smog like a falling star. The false transponder identified her as a diplomatic courier. No alarms. No challenge. The Empire trusted its walls. Inside the cargo bay, Misha and Grindel crouched restlessly in the dark, claws scraping against the steel floor. Their breathing was heavy, predatory. They could sense her intent. Easy, Yelena murmured, her voice low but firm. Soon, she wore a stolen Imperial officer's coat, the insignia half torn, her hair pinned beneath a cap. Her sidearm sat hidden beneath the coat. Sable, her AI, flickered in a holographic form on the console, a human silhouette of blue light. Governor Klex's summit begins in 2 hours, Sable reported. Security density, 6,000 guards, automated sentries, aerial drones. Direct infiltration odds, 1 in 37,000. Yelena smiled faintly. Then it's not impossible. Colonel, probability of your survival drops below 3%. Probability doesn't bury my sons, she said. I do. The summit hall of Zeniths Prime was a cathedral of power, vaulted ceilings, chandeliers made of ion crystal, and a dais where Governor Kleck stood, smiling for the holocams. All glory to the Empire, he said, voice echoing through the crowd. Through order, we preserve peace. His words were honeyed poison. The guests, admirals, diplomats, and corporate heads applauded on cue. None noticed the maintenance technician walking along the upper scaffolds above them, carrying a small toolkit and a cigarette. Yelena moved with surgical precision. She placed small black discs along the support beams, old Terran-shaped charges, silent and clever. As she worked, her voice was a whisper. Sable, mark exits. I'll want them sealed. Acknowledged. Rerouting security override. The AI's presence flickered in her earpiece. Below, she saw the dais where Klex preened, his fat fingers clutching a glass of gold liquor. Her jaw tightened. That's the man who signed their death. She climbed down into the access tunnels, slipping past droids and guards. 2 minutes later, she was in the main corridor, walking toward the banquet hall. Outside the hall's main doors, 2 guards stopped her. Identification, one demanded. Yelena handed over a forged pass. The scanner beeped green. She smiled faintly. Maintenance. Air filters malfunction. They nodded, disinterested. She passed through, and the moment she entered, everything slowed. The lights above flickered once as her charges connected to Sable's signal. Misha and Grendel, deep in the service ducts, received her coded pulse. They began to move. A scream echoed from somewhere above, the sound of tearing metal, the rush of bodies scrambling. Then the chandeliers crashed down, shattering like glass rain. Panic rippled through the crowd. Governor Klex turned, shouting for his guards. But when he saw the figures stepping through the smoke, he froze. Colonel Morozov, he stammered. Impossible. You're dead. Yelena stepped closer, eyes cold as the void. So were my sons. She raised her pistol. The blaster cracked once. Klex's glass shattered on the floor beside his body. Screams erupted. Guards poured in from every direction. Misha hit the first wave like a storm. Small, fast, unstoppable. His claws ripped through armor, his jaws closing on a soldier's throat. Grendel followed, barreling through a squad like a cannonball, plasma bolts ricocheting off his hide. Yelena didn't look back. She fired with surgical calm, every shot deliberate. The banquet turned to chaos. Crystal tables overturned, alien diplomats scrambling for cover. Sable's voice was serene amid the mayhem. Colonel, transmission live. The galaxy is watching. Indeed, every holocamera still active was now broadcasting. Across 1,000 worlds, citizens saw the image. A lone human woman walking through an Imperial palace, flanked by 2 monsters, leaving only ruin in her wake. Her voice carried over the feed. I am Yelena Morozov of Earth, she said. You killed my sons and called it law. You call us savages, animals. But remember this. When you burned our worlds, we learned to stop fearing hell. Then she turned, tossing her cigarette into the wreckage. The smoke ignited the spilled fuel and alcohol. Fire bloomed through the hall like dawn. Outside, alarms blared. Imperial security swarmed the city. Ships launched from orbit. But Yelena and her beasts had already vanished into the lower levels, down into the maze of tunnels and old sewers beneath Zeniths Prime. She moved like a shadow through the underworld, her coat torn, face streaked with soot. Behind her, Misha limped, bleeding from a blaster wound, but still snarling at every echo. Sable guided them through flickering lights. Admiral Vire has issued an emergency decree. You are now declared an interstellar terrorist. Bounties exceed 1 million credits. Good, Yelena said. Let them come. Hours later, on a forgotten landing pad deep in the Undercity, she and her beasts boarded a stolen transport. The engines screamed to life. As they lifted off, Yelena stared down at the burning towers. Her broadcast had gone viral across the Empire. Everywhere, suppressed human colonies watched the feed and whispered one phrase. Baba Yaga walks again. Admiral Salith Vire watched too, from the bridge of his dreadnought. His face was pale with fury. "Find her," he hissed. "I want her brought to me alive." Commander Hesh, standing at his side, smiled cruelly. "And what if she resists?" "Then kill her," Vire said, "and burn every human colony until the rest learn obedience." Yelena sat in the cockpit of her new ship, reloading her weapon. Her reflection in the viewport looked older than she remembered. Harder, colder. Sable spoke softly. "Two names remain." She nodded. "Hesh and Vire." The serpent's head. Misha rested his head on her boot, growling low. Grendel's eyes gleamed in the dark. Yelena looked out at the stars and whispered, "Then we keep hunting." The stars reflected in her eyes like fire. The galaxy had awoken something it could not kill. The return of Baba Yaga. The wreckage of Zenith's Prime still smoldered when the Empire declared total war on humanity. Across the stars, human colonies were burned, their populations executed or enslaved. The Empire's message was simple: submit or be erased. But even as the flames spread, something else began to stir. A whisper through pirate bands, mercenary nets, and encrypted human channels. A name, resurrected from fear and myth. Baba Yaga. Yelena Morozov watched it unfold from the cold light of her ship's bridge. Every feed showed chaos. Uprisings, riots, soldiers turning their guns on their commanders. Humanity had stopped bowing. She lit a cigarette, the smoke curling around her like a halo. "They've overplayed their hand," she murmured. "Admiral Salith Vire commands the Purge fleet personally," Sable reported. "His flagship is en route to the Clyra shipyards for refit. Commander Hesh accompanies him." Yelena exhaled. "Then we end it there." The Clyra shipyards orbited a dying red star, its light staining every ship in hues of blood and rust. The place was enormous. Thousands of maintenance docks, repair platforms, and fuel depots. Imperial banners hung, like trophies from the void. Yelena's freighter approached under the guise of a salvage vessel. She wore a matte black exosuit, lighter than armor, built for infiltration. The honey badgers crouched beside her in the cargo bay, encased in combat harnesses lined with steel plates and shock emitters. "Once we're in," she told them quietly, "we don't stop. Not until we find them both." Misha huffed. Grendel clicked his teeth. They understood. Sable's tone was grim. "This is a trap. Admiral Vire leaked his location. He expects you." "I know," Yelena said. "That's why it'll work." The freighter latched on at Dock 7A with a hollow clang. Air hissed into the bay as the doors slid open. Yelena stepped out into the sterile light of the shipyard. Two guards approached, scanners raised. They never finished their greetings. Yelena's silenced pistol coughed twice. Both fell. Misha dragged their bodies into the shadows. "Security grid overridden," Sable whispered. "You have 12 minutes before countermeasures." "Then let's make history," Yelena said, and began to move. The corridors of Vire's flagship, the Tyrant's Crown, were immaculate, lined with banners and portraits of conquest. She moved like a ghost through them, her footfalls silent. Through her visor, Sable marked paths in blue. Dozens of red dots indicated patrols. In the heart of the ship, the command chamber glowed with data streams. There, Admiral Salith Vire stood before a panoramic viewport, hands clasped behind his back. His voice echoed through the bridge. "Humanity," he sneered to his officers, "is a disease. We must cauterize it, planet by planet, cell by cell." "Funny," Yelena said from the doorway, "how often the infection outlives the surgeon." Every head turned. Vire froze. "You." He reached for his sidearm, but Misha was faster, a blur of muscle and rage that tore through a guard before anyone could scream. Grendel barreled into a console, crushing an ensign beneath metal and sparks. "Kill her," Vire shouted. Plasma fire filled the room. Yelena dove behind a pillar, returning fire with lethal precision. She moved like something inhuman, deliberate, relentless, every shot a statement. When her pistol clicked empty, she grabbed a fallen rifle and kept advancing. Bodies fell. Sparks rained. The bridge turned into a slaughterhouse. When the smoke cleared, only Vire and Hesh remained, cornered near the viewport. Hesh, trembling, raised his weapon. "You can't stop the Empire." Yelena's voice was low, deadly calm. "I don't need to stop it. I just need to remind it what fear feels like." She fired once. Hesh dropped, the blaster clattering beside him. Then only Vire stood, tall, proud, and terrified. His pistol wavered. "You think killing me changes anything?" he spat. "You're one woman, one animal." Yelena stepped closer, bloodied and cold-eyed. "I'm the mother of 3 dead sons," she said. "That makes me worse than an animal." Vire lunged. They struggled, blaster versus blade, strength versus fury. He was larger, stronger, but she was faster, trained by years of killing. When his strike grazed her ribs, she didn't flinch. She jammed her knife into his side, twisting until his scream echoed off the steel. "You burned my world," she hissed, "and thought no one would come for you." Vire tried to speak, but she drove the blade home again, then shoved him backward through the viewport glass. It cracked, spiderwebbing under the strain of vacuum. He gasped, "You'll die with me." Yelena smiled through blood and pain. "I've been dead a long time." She hit the detonator. The charges she'd placed throughout the shipyard ignited in a cascading chain. Fire roared through space, consuming the tyrant's crown. Inside the command chamber, Yelena collapsed beside Misha and Grendel, both wounded but alive. Sable's voice flickered weakly. "Critical damage. Hull integrity collapsing. I can transfer to emergency beacon, but—" "Do it," she whispered. "Send the files. All of them." "Confirmed. Uploading Imperial war crimes to Galactic Network." She smiled faintly. "Good girl." The flames reached the bridge. Her vision blurred, blood loss, exhaustion, peace. Misha whimpered and pressed against her leg. Grendel laid his head beside her hand. She stroked their fur weakly. "You two did good," she murmured. "Time to rest." The last thing she saw was the red star burning bright beyond the shattered viewport, and her sons' faces in her mind, smiling. Then the tyrant's crown exploded, its debris scattering like ash across the void. Epilogue. Months later, the galaxy changed. Every major network carried the leaked files. Executions, slave camps, massacres. The Empire's image shattered. Rebellion spread like wildfire. Human fleets rose again, their banners bearing the old Terran emblem. They spoke her name as a rallying cry. Baba Yaga, the ghost who'd returned to make monsters bleed. On a quiet moon far from the front, 2 honey badgers roamed a grassy plain, guarding a small grave marked with simple words. Yelena Morozov, mother, soldier, human. Sometimes when the wind shifted, the stars above seemed to flicker, like the spark of a cigarette in the dark. And across the galaxy, empires trembled, remembering the day one human mother brought them to their knees.